Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Wednesday, obviously no game this weekend. I did promise you it yesterday. We're going to talk about Jordan Pickford in today's live stream. There's been a lot of sort of media coverage surrounding Jordan Pickford over the last week or so, especially after the mistake he made in the game against Crystal Palace. Not so many media journalists covering the fantastic save he made, obviously because he plays for Everton and why cover anything positive. But there's been a conversation between Evertonians surrounding Jordan Pickford, I think, for quite a long time. Certain Evertonians don't think he's good enough and think we need to bring in another goalkeeper. Other Evertonians think that he can be good enough, he's just a little bit too inconsistent at the moment. And that's sort of where I stand with it. I think Jordan Pickford is, on the whole, a good goalkeeper. I just think, like most Everton goalkeepers, like I said on Monday, I can't think of an Everton goalkeeper after sort of Nigel Martin who was at any level of consistent throughout the time at Everton. Jordan Pickford, again, another example of a goalkeeper that one week can have an absolutely fantastic game, can make some world-class saves, and the next week can have a howler and throw in some opportunities that he realistically should be saving. And even in a week itself, in one single game, he can make a fantastic save and he can make a howler like he did against Crystal Palace. But there's definitely a conversation to be had because I feel like every time Jordan Pickford sort of makes a wrong step on the pitch now, it's criticised in the media, fans jump on the back of it, and I personally think we just need to get behind Jordan Pickford, to be perfectly honest with you, and it's for a couple of reasons that we're going to talk about today. Now, for me, ultimately, the whole conversation surrounding Jordan Pickford, the old discussion surrounding Jordan Pickford, it falls on one man and one man only, and that's Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti is going to have to make the decision at the end of the season as to whether he believes Jordan Pickford is good enough to take us to that level that he wants to be at. Carlo Ancelotti's come out, he said today in an interview with Capital, he's come out and he said he sees Everton as a team that should be challenging in the Champions League, should be challenging for league titles, should be challenging for cup competition. So Carlo Ancelotti needs to sit down at the end of the season, like I'm sure he will, with Marcel Brands, and when he's reviewing the squad and when he's reviewing, which players are good enough to be part of that squad going forward and which players aren't, he needs to have that discussion surrounding Jordan Pickford. So firstly, we need to get behind him at least until the end of the season, at least until the summer, when Carlo Ancelotti will make that decision as to whether he believes he is good enough to take us forward. Now, I know it means very, very little, but just personally, in my opinion, I can see an Everton team that are challenging in the Champions League, that are winning cup competitions, that are challenging for the Premier League with Jordan Pickford as the goalkeeper. I think he needs to settle himself down a little bit. I think he needs to get his head down. I had some really, really interesting comments from Neville Southall on Monday night. I'm sure you know, said it on yesterday's live stream. The reason that there wasn't a live stream on Monday is because I actually went to an Everton Legends night with my dad in the Liverpool Empire. It was Neville Southall, it was Peter Reid, and it was Joe Royle. And Neville Southall was asked a question about Jordan Pickford. It was actually the last question of the night, and as soon as somebody in the crowd asked it, pretty much the whole rest of the crowd gasped a little bit, and I think everybody was awaiting Neville Southall's answer, but he actually gave a really, really interesting answer as to why he believes as well that Jordan Pickford can be a potential, good goalkeeper, world-class goalkeeper for Everton going forward. He just needs to settle down a little bit and he just needs to work on his concentration levels. And Neville give a really, really good analysis, and a lot of people, with me saying that, would probably say, yeah, he needs to concentrate a lot more. But Neville Southall actually approached it as to why he believes Jordan Pickford needs to do a little bit less concentrating, because he thinks he concentrates a little bit too much at times in games. And like I said, that's not coming from me, that's coming from the big man himself. Arguably, well, not arguably, I think definitely our best goalkeeper, that Everton have ever had, and arguably one of the best goalkeepers to ever play the game. So we'll talk about Neville's comments in just a little bit, but I want to talk about Jordan himself. Obviously, he hasn't had the greatest of seasons so far. He actually had a really good season last season. He got a load of clean sheets, and I think he was only outdone by Alisson, Ederson and Kepa, if I'm right in saying the goalkeeper had the most clean sheets. I don't know if it was last season or last year, as in 2019. So, we've got that inconsistency with him, haven't we? Like I said earlier on, he has some games where you think, oh my god, you can go on to be an absolute world-class goalkeeper, and then he has some games where you think, what are you doing, lad? You're not commanding your box, you're not getting out, you're not commanding your area. For me, I think just on the off, I think Jordan Pickford's a very, very good shot-stopping goalkeeper. I think whenever he's faced with a one-on-one situation, whenever he has to make a top save, he usually, more often than not, does make a top save. For me, the situations that Jordan Pickford struggles the most in are the situations that are the easiest. It's the easy things that he doesn't quite get right, and the tough things that he does get right, and that's sort of quite symbolic of the entirety of our squad, to be honest with you, in our football club. Definitely prior to Carlo Ancelotti coming in was the fact that we just weren't getting the easy things done, but we were getting, we'd be able to do the tough things. You know, Jordan Pickford, like I said, he makes some howling mistakes. He definitely made the mistake against Crystal Palace for Benteke's goal, and the ball goes right under him, and he should do an awful lot better. But then again, like I said, 25, 30 minutes after that into the second half, when Benteke has the chance to make it 2-2, heads it, at Jordan Pickford from literally 5 yards out, and Jordan makes himself massive and makes a really, really good save. And like I said, that is the inconsistency that we're going to have from at least now until the end of the season. Obviously, we've got no competition for Jordan Pickford. And one thing I would definitely say going into the summer, if Carlo Ancelotti deems Jordan Pickford good enough to be our goalkeeper going forward, if he thinks that he can work with him, if he thinks that, there's things that he can improve and will improve on, and then ultimately will go on to be the goalkeeper that we need him to be, we definitely, whether he believes that he's the number one goalkeeper going forward or he's not, we 100% need to bring a goalkeeper in the summer, because one thing that isn't helping Jordan Pickford whatsoever is the fact that he's got absolutely no competition whatsoever in this team. Martin Stecklenburg is utter shite. He's nowhere near good enough to play in a Premier League side, never mind good enough to play in a Premier League side that is supposed to be fighting for European football, supposed to be challenging for the top 4, challenging for the top 6, etc. He's just not good enough whatsoever. Obviously, we had Jonas Leisel. He's now gone back out to Huddersfield on loan. Never seen Jonas Leisel play a professional or a competitive game in an Everton shirt, so to say. So obviously, he wasn't rated very, very highly by either Carlo Ancelotti or previous managers, Marco Silva, and even when obviously Duncan Ferguson come in. When Duncan Ferguson come in, he completely shunned he completely shunned Jonas Leisel from the 18. Martin Stecklenburg come back into the team, and then obviously Carlo Ancelotti took that on, and Jonas Leisel went back to Huddersfield. So I think we 150% need to bring in another goalkeeper in the summer, whether that is to replace Jordan Pickford, whether that's a goalkeeper that's going to come in and be the number one, or whether it's simply somebody that gives Jordan competition, because he's got no competition whatsoever. So when he's going out to the training ground, how do we expect the player to have that motivation to do better? How do we expect the player to have that hunger if he's literally got nobody pushing him? And I know he'll have the coaches telling him he needs to do better and he needs to work on this and he needs to work on that. And I know he's got Carlo Ancelotti, obviously, who's, one of the greatest managers in world football, one of the most successful managers in world football. But from Jordan Pickford's point of view, he really, really needs another goalkeeper to be pushing him, because if he's got a good enough goalkeeper as our number 2 or our number 3, whatever, who's sitting there saying, you know what, I'm good enough to get in this team, so I'm going to push Jordan to the next level. He gets that hunger, he gets that, want to play, want to improve, want to, improve himself, because he knows that, shit, if I don't really get a move on here, this kid's going to come in and he's going to take my place. And then, goalkeeping is a type of position where if you lose your place as number 1, you're pretty much done for. You're going to be sitting on the bench for a long time. It's not a position that many managers like to chop and change often. Some managers will go with a single goalkeeper throughout the entirety of a season, and it looks like that's what Carlo Ancelotti wants to do. So if he does deem Jordan Pickford not good enough in the summer and he brings somebody else in, then I fully expect that goalkeeper to be the number 1 going forward. But if he does bring somebody in and he says to Jordan, you know what, I'm still got the confidence that you can be the goalkeeper that takes us forward, however, I'm bringing this person in to give you some competition, to give you a little bit of a boot up the arse, and to make you realise, shit, I need to start improving here, because if I don't, I'm going to be sat on the bench and I'm going to be, end up inevitably being sold to somebody that's not going to be able to pay me as much as Everton at the end of the day. And that's what it works out as. He's got no competition, so naturally he's not got that hunger, he's not got that want to improve, because he knows no matter how he plays, deep down he mightn't come out and say this in an interview, he mightn't believe this or think like this, but for me, subconsciously, Jordan Pickford knows in the back of his mind that no matter how poorly he plays, no matter how many mistakes he makes, no matter how bad of a game he has, he's going to be in that starting 11 the following week, because we simply have not got anybody that can compete with him. Because, people are quick to criticise Jordan Pickford, and I see people, on social media and everywhere, when it comes up to an Everton game saying, but put Stecklenburg in, put Leisel in. I'd rather have Jordan Pickford with one arm, and a broken leg than Martin Stecklenburg in goal, because I just think Martin Stecklenburg is an absolute hologram of a goalkeeper. And that's no disrespect to him, it probably is a little bit disrespectful. I don't mean to disrespect him, it's just he's not good enough to be a goalkeeper that's in a team challenging for the top 6, challenging for the the top 4, if that's where we are in the next couple of weeks, depending on how results go. Now, I want to briefly talk about the sort of media coverage surrounding Jordan Pickford, and we'll go into some of Jordan's comments that he's made over the past week about sort of media outlets and journalists and people that have been getting on his back. I just want to briefly talk about football fans on social media, Twitter mostly. As you know, we only really have a Twitter account, or do we? Bit of a little break in the stream there. Just want to say we have officially made an Instagram account, a Mighty Blues Instagram account. You'll find the link in the description down below. If you can't click the link in the description, if you go on Instagram, it's just Mighty Blues EFC. Go on there, give us a follow, there's a couple of posts on there already. It was made this afternoon, so go and like the couple of posts. We'll be posting videos, pictures, all sorts of Everton stuff, a little bit like we do on Twitter, quote and stuff like that. So go and follow our Instagram. But anyway, a little bit of a plug there. Prior to me making the Instagram today, I'm only really on Twitter and I only really look on Twitter, and there seems to be an awful lot of football fans that support other football clubs commenting on Jordan Pickford at the minute, which makes absolutely no sense for me, because these football fans have only really got experience of watching Jordan Pickford constantly when he's playing for England or when he's playing in the World Cup. And Jordan Pickford, let me just remind any of those fans that are watching, Jordan Pickford single-handedly kept this country in that World Cup and took them to a semi-final with his penalty shootout save. So the fact that, listen, I completely understand if you're an Everton fan, and I can see a couple of fans in the live comments. We'll go into the live comments because it is a stream that massively demands the comments today. We'll go into them in a minute. I completely understand if you're an Everton fan and you've got an opinion on Jordan Pickford, and you think he's good enough, and you maybe think that we need to bring somebody else in. Completely understandable and completely warranted. You have the right to make that opinion, because as an Evertonian or as a fan that, let's say, watches Everton week in, week out, you're watching Jordan Pickford and you're making that assumption. But I know full well 85-90% of these people on social media that are ripping Jordan Pickford to bits, that are suggesting the likes of Dean Henderson, which is a fair shout for England #1, obviously having a fantastic season with Sheffield United. But I went on this morning and I googled Jordan Pickford's name, and Sky Sports put a YouTube video up of Paul Merson talking about whether it should be Dean Henderson or Jordan Pickford as a goalkeeper, and I didn't watch the video because I think Paul Merson talks absolute shite, and I knew exactly what he'd say without having to watch the video. But I just went into the comments, and the amount of football fans that supported the likes of Manchester United, Wolves, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc., that were ripping Jordan Pickford to bits is just absolutely beyond me, because I know full well that those fans do not watch Everton week in, week out, and all as they see is the mistake that Jordan Pickford will make, maybe 1 in 3 games, or the mistake that he made, for example, against Crystal Palace last week. That's all they'll say. Or Jordan Pickford's not good enough, he's making mistakes. They didn't really see the world-class save that he made half an hour after that. They didn't see the many world-class saves he's made, since he's been in Everton. And granted, like I said, I'm not just going to sit here and be 100% biased and say he's more than good enough, he's the goalkeeper to take us forward, because I completely understand if you're an Everton fan and you don't think he's good enough and you think we need to bring somebody else in. What I'm saying is Jordan Pickford has made a plethora of fantastic saves since he's been in Everton Football Club. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons this season, granted, but a lot of these fans on social media of other football clubs are literally just jumping on this weird agenda bandwagon thing to go at Jordan Pickford and have a go at Jordan Pickford. And I think it's really, really strange, considering they were the type of people that were sitting in their jeans shorts and their bright white trainees, that were pissed off the smell of a Strongbow dark fruit in the summer of 2018 after he saved the penalty, and that were crying because he was so wonderful, and have not seen much of Jordan Pickford since then, but they're making this judgment that he's somehow, worse than. I seen one comment that was like Fraser Forster in over Jordan Pickford, Jack Butland and Tom Eaton. Are you taking the fucking piss? Okay, if you're going to sit here and you're going to say Dean Henderson, even Nick Pope, fair enough, they're valid, competitors, and there's a valid argument for them. But the others, Fraser Forster hasn't been a top goalkeeper for about 4 years. Tom Eaton has been injured for fucking ages as well. So it's just fans that are jumping on this sort of agenda bandwagon for me against Jordan Pickford, and I don't really like that, because like I said, if you're an Everton fan and you've got an opinion on him and you don't think he's good enough, that's completely fair enough. That's warranted. You're sitting watching Everton Football Club every single week, so you're viewing Jordan Pickford's performances. But I know for a fact a lot of these fans are just diving on it to try and become popular on social media and to try and fit in with the grain, really. I just wanted to say that obviously, like I said, he is very inconsistent. He's still quite young, 25 years old for a goalkeeper. He's got a lot of room to improve, and he's got a lot of time to improve. He needs to be sat down for me, and if he's going to be, the goalkeeper, the future of Everton Football Club, he needs to be sat down and he needs to be told, listen, you need to get your head in the game here. What's going on, whether it's, a personal issue or what's going on in your life that's making you make these mistakes constantly. Because like I said, he is having a poor season this season. His first season at Everton Football Club, 2017-18, he come in the summer. He come in the same summer as the likes of Gylfi Sigurdsson, Davy Klaas and Sandro Ramirez, a summer where we blasted Michael Keane as well in that summer, where we blasted all sorts of money on average footballers. But in that season, he actually got our Player of the Year, our Young Player of the Year, our Players Player of the Year. He got England's 23's Player of the Year as well. He won an absolute shitload of awards in that year for how consistent and how good his performances were. Now, like I said, granted, since then, specifically this season, he has been inconsistent. He's been putting in some performances that you would hope we would improve on, specifically little mistakes like the one he made against Crystal Palace, the Watford goals a couple of weeks ago. I think he should have done an awful lot better with. So there is definitely a conversation to be had as to why he potentially mightn't be good enough to take us forward. But I think we also need to, at the moment, like I said, we need to get behind him. We need to give him our full support, because whether we like it or not, there's the season finishes in May, so we've got 3 months of the Premier League season to go. We've still got to play Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool. We've still got to play all of these teams, and Jordan Pickford is going to be in goal for Everton, providing there's no injuries and providing there's no strange situations. Jordan Pickford is going to be in goal for Everton for all of those games, as well as every game between now and the end of the season. So we need to get behind him. There's no point as a fan base now that he obviously thinks, and we'll talk about his comments in just a second, now that he obviously thinks that the entirety of the country is sort of against him and the media's against him, there's absolutely little point of us being against him. Even if we don't think he's good enough, even if we sit here and say he probably needs to be replaced in the summer, we need to just get behind him, because there's no point in ripping him to bits on social media after he makes a mistake. There's no point in going in him, because it's only going to damage his confidence, and it's only going to affect him more and more and more. If we get behind him, and then, like I said, there's one man that'll make the decision as to whether he's good enough or not in the summer, and that is Carlo Ancelotti. And if Carlo Ancelotti comes at the end of the summer, and we've made 5 or 6 boss signings, and we've got rid of some of the deadwood, and Jordan Pickford's still our goalkeeper, then it shows how much faith he has in Jordan Pickford. I agree, he does need to be sat down. He does need to be spoke to about his attitude sometimes, I think, on the pitch, as well as his general professionalism and his demeanour, and I think he lets his head get away with himself sometimes, and that's definitely to do with the concentration comments that we'll go on to talk about Neville Southall having in just a second. But anyway, it's clear that Jordan Pickford's been listening to the criticism. It's clear that he's aware of it. He's commented on it. We'll go through those comments now, and then we'll dive into the live comments. If you're enjoying this team, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. I want to know your thoughts on Jordan Pickford in the comment section down below. I do want to make it quite a positive live stream, because I don't want to go in on him, but I do understand the fans that maybe potentially think we need to bring in somebody else, somebody better, if we're going to aspire to be one of those top teams. Like I said, if you're enjoying so far, please do hit that like button. Subscribe to the stream if you're new as well. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. It only takes a second, the button down below. Get the stream shared all over the socials and everything. Let's get as many people in as possible. But anyway, Jordan Pickford's been talking in the media over the last sort of week or so regarding some of his critics, regarding some of the people that have had a go at him, let's say. And I don't think he's specifically talking about Everton fans with these comments. I think he's talking about the general sort of public as a whole. So he said, everyone hates you for some reason. That's part of being an England player. I think the press and everybody, the punters, look at Gary Neville. They just want to come for England players. He says, you've got to live with it. You have to learn. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm good at. Look at Joe Hart when he was number 1. He got pelters every week. So again, Jordan Pickford, this comment goes into it. He also says, you just keep away from your head as the only person. You just keep it away from your head as the only person who can sort things out as yourself as an individual on the pitch and training, looking after things on the pitch for Everton. That is my main aim. That gets you picked for England, which I actually really like that comment. I really like the fact that Jordan Pickford's coming out and he is assuring Evertonians that his main sort of priority, his main priority is Everton Football Club and getting his head down and working hard for Everton. And I really like him coming out and saying, the only person that can change his performances, the only person that can rectify those mistakes, the only person that can make sure they learn from him is him himself. Interesting that he come out and said, about people like Gary Neville and various other punters that continuously go at England players. I've seen a couple of people on social media over the last week sort of believe that that's completely untrue and it's flipped the other way around and England players get the most praise out of anybody. My personal opinion on that is, I think it's really 50-50. I think certain England players get absolutely ripped to bits by the media and get fed a load of shite for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And I think other England players get absolutely, loved up by the media. Look at Jesse Lingard, for example. The media is still trying to sell that he's a good footballer. He is a League One footballer at the very, very best. But people, people in the media, journalists, pundits, etc., will still be trying to sell him for the Euro squad in the summer because, they've got this love for certain England players and they've got this real bitter hatred for others, and I don't really know where the hatred comes from. I don't want to get political, but it seems like the players that they tend to go for are players that play in the Northwest. But like I said, I don't want to get political. One prime example of that is obviously Raheem Sterling. All of the shit that Raheem Sterling's had over the years from the media. Raheem Sterling can't even go for a shit without the Daily Mail or somebody seemingly making a headline out of it. It's utter disgraceful. And I think Jordan Pickford sort of going along those lines as he feels like, he can't really do much without the media pelting him and without the media getting on his back. And it is harder as a goalkeeper because, as a striker, if you score a world-class goal, it's all over the paper, your name's in headlights, your name's in the stars, you're remembered forever. If you miss a one-on-one opportunity, it's like, should have probably scored that, but oh well, we'll move on and you'll have another opportunity. As a goalkeeper, if you make a poor mistake, for example, that's in the headlines, that's all over the social media, that's everywhere, that's what's highlighted. Whereas as an attacking player, the positives highlighted and the negatives sort of said, it doesn't matter, we'll move on. As a goalkeeper, the negatives highlighted and the positives are sort of swept over. Look at Jordan Pickford, for example. I can't even collect how many fantastic saves he's made for Everton and England over the years, yet they're all sort of swept under the carpet. The World Cup one is a massive example. The World Cup against Colombia, where I don't know if it's James Rodriguez, is it? That it's one from about 25-30 yards, and Jordan Pickford gets up and makes an absolute wonderful save, but it got absolutely swept under the carpet because Yerry Mina scored from the corner. Obviously, big Yerry scoring from corners, but it just got absolutely swept under the carpet because, we conceded from the corner, not really highlighting the fact that the save was absolutely fantastic. So I do agree where Jordan's coming from there. He doesn't finish there. He goes on to talk about the fans and fan abuse, and I think, again, he's more talking about fans of other clubs, which, like I said before, I don't really understand why fans of other clubs are getting involved. If, let's say, for example, Jordan Henderson was having a bad season, or I don't know, somebody else, James Maddison was having a bad season, or another England player, Raheem Sterling, Jesse Lingard, I know I've just ripped him there, but it's in context. But let's say any other England player was having a bad season, I wouldn't think as an Everton fan to go on social media and absolutely rip them to bits and start to make a big massive thing out of why they shouldn't be picked for the England squad. I wouldn't give a fuck. They don't play for my football club. If they're having a shit season, they're having a shit season, whatever. Let their football club deal with it. So I don't really know why fans of other clubs are having their say on Jordan Pickford's performances, because I think it's utter bollocks, considering for me, every time he's put an England shirt on, he's put a fantastic performance in, bar maybe a couple of times, especially that World Cup. He was absolutely fantastic in that World Cup, and any England fan that watched that World Cup and wants to tell me otherwise just doesn't know anything about football. Anyway, then went on to talk about fan abuse. He said, it's funny because everyone raves about you when you're with England, but then when you get back to your club and everyone wants to slate you as a person, I don't let it affect me. There you go. Again, exactly what we're saying there. When he's with England, all of these little people on social media that are saying he's not good enough, he's this, he's that, he's got little arms, all of this shit. When he's with England and when he's playing for England and when he's making the saves for England and when, Annie Maguire's falling on his arse or Kyle Walker's looking at the hot dog stand and they've let a player skip past them and then Pickford has to make a fantastic save, nobody's criticising him then. It only seems to be when he's with his club, when he's with Everton. Obviously, he's coming out and he's saying he doesn't let it affect him, which is good. He also does say it pisses him off, so a little bit of a contradictory there with his comments. He says as though he doesn't let it affect him and it doesn't upset him, it does piss him off a little bit. Talking about the Crystal Palace goal, he said, I've watched the goal, I'm lucky I haven't done my cruciate, to be honest. Again, we spoke on yesterday about how he believes his foot planted. He says, my foot planted, it was a foot save, and I have led with my hand, I couldn't get my leg out, it was stuck, it happens, but I'm mentally strong, I'm disappointed, but it doesn't let us affect us. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. I think he probably potentially, did have his foot planted. I think he probably did get a little bit unlucky with that. Like I said, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because, he's come out and I feel like he'd come out and he'd say, yes, I made the mistake and I have to work on it, because he's done that in the past rather than come out and make an excuse. But there you go. Obviously, like I said, Jordan Pickford well aware of the comments that some fans from other clubs are making regarding his performances and regarding the fact that whether or not he should be England's #1 goalkeeper. For me, I'm not particularly asked about having that discussion about whether he should be England's number one goalkeeper or not. For me, I'm only asked about how Jordan Pickford performs from next week when we play Arsenal until the end of the season in an Everton shirt. I don't really care whether he becomes England's number one. Yeah, it'd be good for himself as a player, but as an Evertonian, I'm not really an England fan, so I don't really give a shit, if he's England number one or if he's not. There is a lot of fans, football fans around the country who primarily support England over their football club. I'm not one of them, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm not one of them. So I think they feel a need to comment on Jordan Pickford's performances because they want Gareth Southgate to go, oh my god, I can't pick him, I've got to pick the informed goalkeeper. Jordan Pickford is England's number one, whether you like it or not, and he will continue to be England's number one until another goalkeeper comes in a major competition and takes that place. If Gareth Southgate in the summer says, hang on, sorry, I'm going to sneeze, so I just want to stop myself from sneezing so I don't snot everywhere. Don't look at the light. Don't look at the light, Cam. Apologise. This is what happens when you get on rants. You nearly sneeze. I think it's gone. Has it gone? I think we're gone. We'll get into the live comments in just a second. I've noticed I've rambled for quite a bit and I haven't dived into the live comments, so we'll get in them in just a second. But if Gareth Southgate, for example, goes in the summer for the Euros, Dean Henderson, you're going to be my number one goalkeeper. You're going to play week in, week out. Then there you go. Dean Henderson is England's number one goalkeeper. Fair enough, smashed it. Until that point, Jordan Pickford is England's number one goalkeeper. No matter what, a Nottingham Forest fan or a Leeds fan or a Derby fan says, Jordan Pickford is England's number one goalkeeper, whether you like it or not, until Gareth Southgate makes that decision to replace him in a European competition or in a major competition like the World Cup or the Euros, for example. Like I said, for me, all I'm worried about is his performances from now and the end of the season. I think he's inconsistent, but I think he can be a good goalkeeper. Anyway, before we continue on, we're going to talk about Neville Southall's comments. We're going to talk also about my personal opinion as to whether I think he's good enough to take us forward, and I think, if he works on the things he needs to work on, he can be good enough to become a real top player for Everton. But I'm going to get into the live comments now because I've rambled and I haven't got into them at all. Will says, yes, Cam lad, yes, we're doing well. James says, all right, lad, all right, James. William says, hey, chat, how's everybody doing? Cam lad, I'm not too bad, mate, hope you're doing well. He says, we should put Pickford in the bin. There you go. An Everton opinion on Jordan Pickford there. Ian says, what do you think of Jordan Pickford right now for Everton? I think he's been inconsistent. I think he's always been inconsistent, to be honest with you, as I've pretty much the rest of the team. He's not alone, is he? If you say to me Jordan Pickford plays for Everton and is inconsistent, I'd probably say every other player plays for Everton and is inconsistent as well. Wayne says, I like Pickford, was happy when we signed him, but I think he has had his issues, but think it's all being a bit blown out of proportion. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. Gord says, who could Everton go and get to compete with Pickford for the starting spot? There's loads of goalkeepers. Obviously, there's AC Milan's goalkeeper. Not saying he would come to Everton, but he's there. I like Kevin Trapp from PSG. There's loads of goalkeepers that could come in and compete with Jordan Pickford. It's whether, like I said, at the start of the team, whether Carlo Ancelotti believes that Jordan Pickford is good enough to take us forward. Whammy says, needs work a bit early to think we should bin him off. I agree. Craig says, good goalkeeper needs in the summer to give Pickford serious competition. I agree with that one as well. Eric says, he has been terrible. We need a new goalkeeper. If you play good, you get praise. If you play shit, you get criticism. Simple as that. I'm done with him. We need a new goalkeeper ASAP. Fair enough. Eugene says, should Everton sign Sadiba in the summer? It's looking like we will be given the opportunity to sign him. It's looking like Carlo Ancelotti may exercise that clause. Personally, I like Sadiba. He would only cost around £12 million. It would. I think it's going to depend on where the football club see John Joe Kenny at come the end of the season and where they see his progress, to be honest with you. James says, top keeper, he's just pissed off. He is very young for a goalkeeper and there's a lot of media these days. Hard to always deal with. He is England's number one, Phil. Sorry for the lad. I agree with you. There has been a lot of media sort of daggers at him, and that has got to do with the fact that when you are an England player, and especially when you're an England player whose position is pretty solid, let's be perfectly honest. Before the start of this season, before Sheffield United had a fantastic season, Dean Henderson was never in the conversation. Jack Butland hasn't been in the conversation for about 5 years. Fraser Forster hasn't either. It's only really been Nick Pope and Jordan Pickford. So there has been a lot of media attention on Jordan Pickford, and every single tiny mistake he makes gets highlighted massively by the media. So I agree with that. Will says, Cam, would you want Sadiba for 12 million in the summer? Like I said, it depends on where the club see John Joe Kenny, but for me, 12 million for a player that can play on the right-hand side, whether it be right back or right wing, I probably would take it. Eric says, James Howard, he's 25, that ain't young, he is 25, but for a goalkeeper, he could be going for another 15 years. So for me, although it's not young, it's it's still a decent age for a goalkeeper that's improving, or that should be looking to improve. Sean says, yes, Cameron, yes, Sean, I'll be doing well. Hernandez says, John Joe Kenny is doing really well in Germany. Do you think he should come back and potentially start or sit the bench? I think he will come back. I don't think we're going to allow Schalke to sign him permanently. It all depends, like I said, on how Carlo Ancelotti feels his development has gone in Germany and how Carlo Ancelotti feels his development has gone with Schalke. If he does come back, I think there should be an expectation for him to rival Seamus Coleman. And for me, if John Joe Kenny comes back and is a part of this first team, the 18 next season, he should be being in the starting 11, to be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion. Where he says MacGyver thinks Sidibe is one of them. I like Sidibe, hilarious, but he's neither a right back or a right mid, sort of halfway between, so hard to say. Maybe a squad player. He also says, Hernandez, how you doing, bro? I agree with that. Hernandez says, I also feel that the British media love placing blame on goalkeepers, no matter the team. That is spot on, to be perfectly honest with you. As Jordan Pickford said himself, look at the absolute media hounding that Joe Hart got towards the end of his England career. Joe Hart, one of the best goalkeepers England have ever seen, multiple Premier League champion, led England into multiple competitions, and don't give me this, he didn't win anything for England, because neither did Steven Gerrard, neither did Frank Lampard, neither did David Beckham, neither did Wayne Rooney, neither did Rio Ferdinand. So I'm not asked about all this, but they haven't won anything for England, because neither of these top world class players that apparently played for England, they never won anything with England as well. Look at Joe Hart, like I said, a fantastic goalkeeper for England, fantastic saving for England, absolutely handed out the England team towards the end of his career. Scott Carson, obviously, with the mistake he made in the World Cup, even Paul Robinson towards the end of his. Look at the list of England goalkeepers that have been hounded out the team. It's almost like the media want to bring one in, use them up, one World Cup, maybe a Euros, and then just bin them off. And it seems like Jordan Pickford, in the eyes of the media, maybe towards the end of his reign. Mark says, I think Pickford is our future, but I agree he needs strong competition to keep him on his toes. He does, definitely. James says, for the keeper he is, and he has never had a solid back four in front of him. Even England don't. He will do it and come good. I hope so, mate. I hope so. James says, don't know, on the Sheffield kid, Hernandez has been okay for them, but also has made mistakes. He has, exactly. Hernandez says, doing well, wear me up all as well. TJ says, Pickford the shit, too many mistakes. Fair enough. William says, British media love talking football shite. Hernandez in general. I'm going to say Pickford is England #1, so there's a lot of eyes on him. There is. And Eric says, to be fair, Stecklenberg, he has a good career. He played in the World Cup, and I remember when he saved 2 penalties against City. The problem is he's at the end of his career and he's saying, exactly. And again, like I said, I didn't mean to disrespect Stecklenberg. He has had a good career. Obviously, he's played in World Cups with the Netherlands. He's been there. But realistically, like you said, he's coming to the end of his career now, and he shouldn't be in a team that are challenging for European football in the Premier League. Anyway, we'll get back into the live comments in just a little bit. I want to talk about Neville Southall now. Like I said before, I was at an Everton Legends night with Neville Southall, joined by Peter Reid, Joe Royal. I was sitting there with my dad at the Liverpool Empire. It was a fantastic night. It was boss, dead funny. The chemistry that those three had together was unbelievable. And Neville Southall, like I said before, was asked the question about Jordan Pickford at the end of the night. It was actually the very, very last question that was asked. Perry Groves, who ex-Arsenal player, he hosted the night, and he asked the crowd for one last question, and I can't remember whether it was a man or a woman, stepped up and asked Neville Southall, what do you think about Jordan Pickford? And the entire room of about, I'd say, 1,000 people, maybe a little bit more, gasped when that question was asked, because I think we all, obviously Neville Southall is very, very popular. He's known for the fact that he doesn't hold back. He gives his opinion, he believes in what he believes, and he says it how it is. He doesn't fanny about, he doesn't say it, to benefit other people. He just says it exactly how it is, and he lets his feelings known. So when he was asked that question, I thought this is going to be a really, really interesting ask, because I wonder what he has to say. And he started firstly by being quite constructive about Jordan Pickford. He said that he thinks he can go on to be a good goalkeeper for Everton. I'll use the quote he said. He said he just needs to stop being a tit and get his head down. And I think that's a quote that a lot of Evertonians will have at least said once about Jordan Pickford since he's joined Everton. But he said he does think he can be a good goalkeeper for Everton. He thinks he's got the quality there. He thinks he's got the ability there. He just maybe needs training a little bit. He just needs coaching a little bit better. He mentioned the fact that Jordan Pickford too many times, sort of decreases the size of his body when he should be making himself as big a target as possible. He alluded to the save against Crystal Palace, saying the reason he made such a fantastic save and the reason it was as good as it was is because he made his body as big as possible and he made himself as big a target as possible. Therefore, when the ball was headed at him, it simply bounced off him. He spoke about how, previous goals he's conceded, he needs to make himself more of a target. He needs to stand up. He needs to make sure that defenders don't have the decision made for them before they've made it themselves by going down too early or by showing them a certain side. But he also spoke about concentration, Neville Southall, and I think if you said to an Evertonian, if you said, I'm going to say two things, I'm going to say concentration and Jordan Pickford, put those two in a sentence together, I think a lot of Evertonians would say Jordan Pickford needs to concentrate more. But Neville Southall actually took a different approach to it, and like I said, this isn't coming from me, this is coming from the best goalkeeper to ever put an Everton shirt on. This is coming from arguably one of the best goalkeepers, well, not arguably, scrap the arguably, bollocks to that, one of the best goalkeepers to ever play football. He said that he believes sometimes Jordan Pickford may be concentrating too much, and as soon as he said that, everyone sort of went, what do you mean by that? And what he meant by that, and Perry Grove sort of had heard this story before, he asked him to explain. Neville Southall said that when he was playing football, he used to have a traffic light system basically, red, amber, green, and the way he'd use that system is that if Everton were down the other end of the pitch, attacking, if we had a corner, if we were creating play at the other end of the pitch, your traffic light would be on a red, therefore he wouldn't have to concentrate as much. And Neville Southall said that it's pretty much impossible for a footballer, any footballer, whether it be a goalkeeper, whether it be a midfielder, whether it be a striker, to concentrate as hard as you need to in football for 90 minutes. There has to be times in a football match where you let yourself sort of not doze off, not lose concentration, but let yourself sort of come down a level. And he said when you're in the opposition box, when you're creating opportunities as a goalkeeper, your traffic light should be on red. He said that then if the opposition break or they start to play the ball, towards the middle of the park, it goes on amber. You're aware of the danger, you're aware of what can happen. And then the further up they come the pitch, obviously, if they're, putting a break on, if they're breaking forward, if they're getting towards, your goal, it goes to green, everything's on, and you're full concentrated, and you're making a decision, you're moving players about, you're anticipating where the opposition are going to play the ball. And he said for him that was absolutely vital in football, because he said, he said himself he doesn't think he'd be as good as he was, and he doesn't think he'd be able to make the saves as he did if he was constantly concentrating throughout the entire game, because he said he used Joe Hart, for example, he used Rob Green, he used Scott Carson. He said if you look at these goalkeepers, they're almost trying too hard to concentrate when they don't really need to. When we've got a corner up the other end of the pitch, or we've got a free kick on the edge of the box, they're trying so hard to concentrate, and that means when it gets to the time when they have to actually concentrate and they have to actually switch themselves on, they're panicking and they don't know what to do, and they're stuck with ideas because they've been concentrating that much, they've drained themselves, rather than letting your concentration dip down a little bit, obviously still being aware of what's going on, but being a little bit calmer, being a little more bit composed, and then switching the concentration level on to a maximum when there's danger. And that's how Neville Southall explained how he sort of approached games of football, because he said it was literally impossible for him to concentrate for 90 minutes at a time, because you would make mistakes, you would naturally overthink things, and you would drain yourself naturally if you're trying to have that much concentration for 90 minutes. Basically concentrate at the highest level when you need to, and not sort of just at any point in the game, even if you don't really have to. And he said that he feels like Jordan Pickford, much like many a goalkeeper in recent times, maybe just using his concentration at points that he shouldn't really be using it, and that means that when he needs to use it, he's drained a little bit, he's making mistakes, he's making silly mistakes. I think the biggest issue that we have with Jordan Pickford, and the biggest issue that I think a lot of Evertonians will agree on, is his concentration in terms of his decision making and doing the right thing at the right time. In terms of shot stopping, I don't think many Blues can have a go at his shot stopper and have a negative thing to say about his ability to stop a goal, but it's his concentration levels. It's when a cross comes in, he doesn't command the area enough. It's when somebody's going one-on-one with him, he dives, or he shows them a certain way, or he makes a silly mistake, and that's all part of not concentrating properly at the right times, and that's exactly what Neville Southall explained. So let me know your thoughts on Nev's comments there. I think it was a really, really interesting, insightful way of looking at things, and maybe a way that Jordan Pickford needs to adopt going forward in the future, to ensure that when he has to be at that maximum level of concentration, he can do it, and his brain's not drained, and his brain's absolutely 100% switched on, because he hasn't been at that level for the rest of the game when we've been up the other end of the pitch scoring goals. Let me know your thoughts on Nev's comments. Of course, let me know your opinions on Jordan Pickford as well. Is he good enough to take us forward? Is he not? We'll get back into the live comments now. William says, hit the like, guys, support the Mighty Blues channel if you could, it'd mean a massive amount to me. He also says, so what's up with João Virginia anyway? Wasn't he the next big thing? He was. And then he went to Reading, I think he played 2 games for Reading, and then he never played again, and then he come back to Everton basically. And yeah, I think he's in the under-23s now, so his development has been, pushed back by a poor loan move for me. Pigeon says, the mighty Cameron, what's happening, mate? Wormy says, hey, remember when David De Gea was the greatest goalkeeper in the world? Exactly. Maybe remember when David De Gea, when he first signed for Manchester United, was massively inconsistent and was making mistakes week in, week out, and was being ridiculed by the media, and was being ridiculed by Man United fans who were saying he's not good enough, he's nowhere near good enough to take us forward. Fast forward a few years, he became the greatest goalkeeper in the world, and he single-handedly, kept them in a lot of games of football. It happens with a lot of goalkeepers, we have to remember that. Uden says we need to keep Leighton Baines in the summer at the club. I actually agree. Wayne says Baines, he lives at the club, Eugene. It's like Quasimodo. Pigeon says his arms aren't long enough. Wayne says and his head's too big. He also says there's a song there. Pigeon says, Carl says, hello mate, hello Carl, hope you're doing well. Wayne says, hey Carl. Uden says, I think Everton will need to keep or sell Leighton Baines this summer. We need a replacement left back, or we need a backup left back for if anything, touch wood it doesn't, but if anything ever happened to Luca Dean. So it's either Leighton Baines or we bring in another left back. I can't see why it wouldn't be Leighton Baines. Wayne says we won't sell Baines, he will stay at the club as coach, probably do his badges. He's out of contract in the summer, so if he's not given a new contract, he'll walk for free. Pigeon says we need to get the Mighty Blues, the Mighty Cameron to 2k subs, the boys. If you can, it'd be a massive amount to me. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, it only takes a second. If you're enjoying the team so far, by the way, please do hit that like button as well. Go down below there, go and follow us on Instagram. Made an Instagram today, Mighty Blues EFC. Go and follow that. We'll be putting pictures, videos up, of course, surrounding Everton Football Club. Go and follow our Twitter while you're down there as well. I haven't quite finished yet talking about Jordan, just getting into the live comments. Carl says Saturday proves when you take Coleman out the squad for 1 to 2 months and he comes back, he shows the passion, fight and the quality that he has. I agree. Gortas who dislike the live team, I don't know, I can't see. Pin says somewhere probably. William says there's always one. Cam has a secret disliker, probably a sour Man United fan. There is always one, to be fair. He says, how many players do you think Everton will need to keep or sell this transfer window? I think we probably need about 4 to 6 in, and probably to get rid of about 4 to 6, maybe 7, depending on how many we can realistically ship. Wimmy says just going around disliking everything he can. Carl says Pickford is awful, can't throw a kick a ball. We should buy Madigan from Lille or Dean Henderson. Gylfi's magic, he's magic, woohoo. Fair point, Carl. Understand where you're coming from. Wimmy says we need to get rid of Walcott, Sigurdsson, Schneider, Nias, Martina, Toss and Blasi Sandro. Carl says we shouldn't get rid of Sigurdsson. I actually think we should. Pin says the dislike got removed. That's right, boys. Thank you very much. Wimmy says we should, Carl. We really should, if we even can. Pinch is still on the back up here. Carl says Wamey, he is still one of our best players. He is playing out of position. He is a cam, not a centre mid. Wamey says yeah, Pigeon, just get Gomez to put him in the bin now, innit? And Carl says not gonna lie, Cam, I'm starting to get a soft spot for Moise Keane. Aren't we all, mate? Aren't we all? What a player, Moise Keane. I think we're all getting a soft spot for Moise Keane, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I say getting, I've had the soft spot for Moise Keane for fucking ages. Where are we? Got loads of comments to get through. William says Cam goes forward. Cam breaks lines. Cam creates chances with killer passes. Cam score goals. Cam's not me, as in centre attack midfielder. Cam says Bernard is great. I agree. William says Sigurdsson kicks their balls quite well. It's easy to step to call him a Cam. Carl says Wayne McGilfy got 13 goals and 5 assists from Cam last season. He had a really good season last season, but this season he's had a poor season, if I'm being honest with you. William says Moise Keane is class. Carl says Michael Keane was phenomenal on Saturday. I agree. Bin says everyone likes to take the piss out of Pickford. That's why fans of other clubs are having a go. Pickford likes to take the piss out of Everton. Sorry, I agree with that. William says, yeah, that was last year. It wasn't good enough in his best position a year younger. Carl says, looking at the hot dog stand, Cam 2020, what a you are. Exactly. The amount of England players that are utter shite but don't get the media attention that Jordan Pickford gets is absolutely beyond me. Kyle Walker is pony, mate. Harry Maguire is shite. Jesse Lingard is shite, but they don't get the amount of media criticism that certain other players do get. William says we want to challenge top 4, then it's Ancelotti new stadium. Carl says Wormy Gylfi has played centre mid all season. Dosby says I'm here, good stuff. Wormy says I'm not saying Sigurdsson is shit, I'm saying he doesn't stay when we are trying to go further. I agree with that one. Pin says all jokes aside, though Pickford is a top quality goalkeeper, he's just having a bit of a stinker this season, which happens exactly like we mentioned before. Look at David De Gea. I remember a season, even 2 seasons, where David De Gea was shocking at Manchester United, but then went on to become the best goalkeeper in the world. So, I think we do need to get behind Jordan Pickford, like I said before. William says he doesn't make starting lineup for any of the top 4 clubs, does. Carl says, I don't want us to get Sidibe because he doesn't defend and we concede a lot of goals from his side. I'd get Max Adams. Uyn says, what Everton players do you think Everton need to keep us on the summer? Easy. Martina, Nias, probably Walcott, Tosin, Sigurdsson all need to go. Sandro, Balassi, there's loads of them. In terms of I'd love David Neres. I'd love Timo Werner. I'd love a lot of players, but whether we'd get them or not is a different question. Carl says Pickford is not quality. He's been bad since we bought him. I disagree with that one. Pickford says he's the best keeper Everton can have at the minute. Don't says I'm really losing patience with Pickford. To be fair, he doesn't seem to learn from his mistakes. You get an age when I doubt he ever will. I think maybe Jordan Pickford needs to be taken out of the England team. Maybe Jordan Pickford needs that little bit of realism is for Gareth Southgate to go, you know what, you're coming out of it, and then come back to Everton and Everton go, that's because you need to improve, that's because you need to stop making these silly mistakes, that's because you need to get your head down and you need to work. It's all good Jordan Pickford saying, there's only one person that knows how to rectify these mistakes and that's me. That's not really the case, is it? Because you've got world-class coaches there at the football club and at England that are qualified in taking those mistakes out of the players' games and working on those mistakes, and he needs to accept that sort of that help that he's inevitably going to get. Carl says he clearly isn't João Virginia, there's just better. Look at his time in Portugal and for Arsenal and for Reading. Pigeon said, would he go to Everton? No. Martin says, as a Liverpool fan, this is great, you getting behind a player who is and will keep you down. Sorry, but that is my perception. He won't. You say keep us down. Keep us down where? We're fighting for the top 4. We're definitely fighting for the top 6. Potentially fighting for the top 4. How are we in any way down? That just doesn't make any sense. Eric says, when you were 25, your inconsistency has to stop. But that, Martin, that's your opinion and that's fair enough. I agree with that one. Carl says, yeah, Virginia plays for us. William says, hey Martin. Ewan says, do you think Everton will be in the Europa League next season? I do. Carl says, John Joe Kenny cannot play. He's shocking. I believe he's had a good season so far at Schalke though. Joel says, I think unless he improves his form, he will get dropped in the England team. I agree. William says, isn't Pope injured? He is. Pigeon says, I know my comment was to Cam when he was on about another keeper before. William says, Joel, he has been fine for England. And Carl says, Max Adams is better than Sidibe, Coleman and Kenny. So anyway, yeah, before we get back into the live comments, before we inevitably end this team, there's loads of comments here today, absolutely loads of them. Where are we up to then? Anyway, yeah, listen, my opinion on Jordan Pickford, my perception on Jordan Pickford, just to sort of end the discussion on him, like I said, before we get into the live comments, before we end this team, personally, I think we need to give him our full support, at least for the mere fact that he's going to be here until at least the end of the season, and he's going to be playing consistently until at least the end of the season. And then, like I said at the start, it's then down to Carlo Ancelotti to decide whether he's good enough to take us forward, to decide whether he's good enough to be playing in a team that are challenging for the top 6 and a team that are challenging for the top 4. And if Carlo Ancelotti makes that decision and makes the decision that he is good enough, then again, we just have to stay behind him. I think Jordan Pickford has got the potential to be a really, really fantastic goalkeeper. He just needs to cut these mistakes out and he just needs to get a little bit more consistency. But like we said before, how many goalkeepers, world-class goalkeepers on the planet at the minute have had seasons when they were younger where they massively struggled. David De Gea being a prime example. But for me, we just need to get behind Jordan and give him the support that he needs, give him the support that arguably he deserves, and then see where we're at the summer for me. William says, possibly because England are a better squad than Everton and they defend quite well, possibly, I don't know. Pigeon says, England is shit, never going to win anything. Carl says, we shouldn't have sold Joel Robles. William says, bring back Joel. Hey Carl, apparently John Joe's being good for Schalke, he has. Carl says, William, he had one good game, my friend is a Schalke fan and says he's woeful. Fair point. Wayne says Pico can't get his head down because if he does, he will never get it back up. Pigeon says he's got the ability. Everton are just having a rough season at the moment. Carl says Pigeon, we are 7th. Wayne says fair dues, Carl. I thought he was okay when he played for us. Charlie Play says good points, mate. Thank you very much. Pigeon says yeah. Luckily though, look at your record. Wayne says we say this, but didn't Man City pay like 50 million for João Cancelo? Exactly. Obviously, the record's massively changed since Carlo Ancelotti's come in. I think Pigeon's alluding to prior to Carlo Ancelotti. Just a slow start to the season, and lucky he's pulling it back, and that was what I meant. William says, get on the comments, Cam, hit the likes, folks. I'm in there, mate. If you could hit the like, it would mean a massive amount to me. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe as well. Cause says, how luckily pulling it back, we are winning teams convincingly. William says, oh, Cam keeps talking. See, Pigeon says, only recently you were getting smacked about the start of the season. William says, Jess, are you here, Jess? Do you know where Wayne is? Jess says, yes, Wayne, I'm here. James says, I'd like to hear what Big Nev has to say. Best goalkeeper I have ever seen. Exactly. Pigeon says, hoping you're tweeting it. I'm good, Jess. Carl says, best keeper I've ever seen is Neuer. I've obviously never got the chance to see Neville Southall live, way before my time, but he was arguably, for me, he was the best goalkeeper to ever live. You can say I'm biased, but what I've seen from him, he's the best goalkeeper to ever live. Josh said, do you think we'll get Europe? I do. Pigeon says it'll be hard, but Europe is possible for Everton if you don't fuck up the rest of the games. I do think we'll get Europe, I really, really do. Pigeon says, is right. Jess, Wormy says, think there's a big silver reason why that was Pigeon. Pigeon says, can't say that again. James says, Neuer never has to make a save, does he? Munich was so dominant for years, don't look good now. Or the goalkeeper, I agree. Pigeon says, Alisson is for me one of the best goalkeepers in Europe at the minute. James says, Alisson, keep that comment to yourself. Jeff says, Football Insider saying that Don has given the green light on Sadiba in the summer. What do you think, Cam? For me, if Carlo Ancelotti believes that he's good enough to play for Everton and Carlo Ancelotti wants to make that signing, I'm completely behind Carlo Ancelotti doing that. Jem says, alright, Cam, by the way, alright, I hope you're doing well. Carl says, Lingard is worse than my nan. Lingard is shite, mate. Lingard is absolutely shite, isn't he? He really, really is shite. Jem says, agree on your shout about the other England players, mate. Maguire pants, Walker pants, exactly. James says, hate anything to do with them, mate. Jem says, Cal, show some respect for your nan, I mean. William says, no, it's 2 Jen I've seen as nan play. She's definitely better than Lingard. William says, Man United sad to sign her. She's sacked up to Dortmund. Cal says, my nan can actually pass a ball. She's 75 years old. Mad. James says, pick for 30 million. England number 1. Our number 1. I think he's done okay. Mistakes happen. Even Pigeons makes mistakes. 80 million, weren't he? Exactly. James says, fair play, no Lingard the pants. Eugene says, Everton will beat Liverpool in the Premier League this season at Goodison, and Liverpool won't win the league at Goodison. I hope so. Carl says, future stars, Moise Keane, informed Charleston, informed DCL on FIFA. There's the best attack on the game. Belter, mate. Gentlemen, I hope so. Eugene. Pigeon says, yeah, I was on about before Ancelotti. Carl says, come on, Cam, Neuer in the prime was insane. He was insane, but Neville Southall in his prime was unbelievable. Jem says, Neuer is good, but Southall is the best keeper to ever grace the game. I agree. And Carl says, my dad says Southall is the best keeper he's ever seen. He is at Samir fan. There you go. And yeah, I know Liverpool fans that'll say Neville Southall is the best keeper they've ever seen, and they've seen the likes of Neuer and various other goalkeepers. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel as well, please do subscribe. Like I said earlier on, we have made an Instagram today. It's Mighty Blues EFC on Instagram, so go down below, go and give that a follow. Go and like the first couple of posts on there. We'll be posting daily pictures, videos, etc. surrounding Everton Football Club as well. So go and give us a follow on there. Give us a follow on Twitter while you're at it, at Mighty Blues YT. Only takes a second. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is Jordan Pickford good enough to take Everton forward? Is Jordan Pickford good enough to play in an Everton team that Carlo Ancelotti hopes will be challenging for the Premier League, will be challenging in the Champions League? Is he good enough? Big thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. It means a massive amount to me, as per usual. And if you're watching as a YouTube video, like I said, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Please do leave a like if you have enjoyed. We'll be back on Friday. It won't be a live stream though, it'll be a video. Be going live around 7:30, 8 o'clock. We'll be talking about why I believe every Evertonian needs to get down to Goodison Park for the upcoming Merseyside derby. If you've got a ticket, if you can get down there, get down there, because it's vital that we get down there and we make it a horrible day for them, and also we make sure that, you know, we, at the end of the day, we need to get points because we've got a real big chance of a European push at the end of the season. William says, you play an Xbox. Carl Pigeon says, yeah, he does. Carl says, remember when Neuer pretty much saved Germany in the World Cup? I do. Pigeon says, we used to, not sure if he does, or a Switch. I play PlayStation now, mate. William says, when you're back, Cam, Friday around 7:30, it'll be a video, it won't be a live stream. We'll be back live on Monday at 5:30, but please do check out that video on Friday. William says, yes. Carl says, yes, Remy. William says, everyone else, have a good one. Hit the like. Carl says, have a good day, Cam. What do you think of my Twitter account, Dash and Dean? Belter account, go and follow it. And a big thanks to you for getting involved. Pigeon says, Cam, we'll need to get you out. I'm not going to read that comment. Jem says, take care or bye. Thanks, Jem. Thank you very much. And Carl says, I think that's his gamer tag for the Xbox. You want to add him? I think anyway. Anyway, that's going to do it today. Big thanks for watching. Please hit the like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Join us on Friday around 7:30 PM for the video discussing the upcoming Merseyside derby. Not upcoming, the Merseyside derby obviously in March, and then we'll be live on Monday at 5:30 as well. Go to see you, Cam. Thanks very much, guys. Leave a like if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.